Hoping there will be no regain.
There is nothing bad in borrowing for infrastructure. The minister added that he was impressed.
Please come and see yourself what we are doing with the money we have borrowed.
It's very important. The way we brand ourselves is the way people will carry us.
It's just the driver of the two vehicles that were completely burned. This one was here screaming.
What do you recommend the government do to support this sector?
Direct intervention, that's what every government all over the world has done.
We are not a parallel security structure. Amotepu Corps is a complementary corps.
What I will not encourage Christians to do is to carry dagger and follow anybody. No.
Join us on The Breakfast, 7 a.m., Monday to Friday.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@plustvafrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
The People's Democratic Party releases timetable for national convention and activities leading up to the big event. And APC's leadership recognizes group campaigning for Vice President Yemi Osinbajo to run for president in 2023. And this video, now widely shared among Nigerians, sparks outrage. Which should rule, modernization or tradition? Welcome to The Breakfast on Plus TV Africa for another Monday morning here. I am Osaugi Ogbonwa. I always expect that, Monday mornings will start up bright and early, and of course it would come with some good news. But of course we live in Nigeria, so not very many of these times, come with great news. And that's because of one of the things that we're starting with this morning on Off the Press, or rather on top trending stories. We're taking, we're starting basically in Kwara State, where there has been criticism for video that went viral. There's a couple of angles that I'm going to share with regards to the story. A place called Madrasa, I hope I pronounced it right. It's an Islamic school that teaches the preachings of Prophet Muhammad. And of course, this video basically showed exactly what has been going on for a really, really long time in Nigeria, but nobody really spoke about it. I'm sure we can quickly play that clip for you so you can understand what I'm talking about. Yes, and this is an example of some of the things that happened that went viral. These persons, of course, being flogged because they somehow flouted the rules of the Islamic school. They were accused of taking alcohol at a birthday party. They say that they didn't take any alcohol, but of course, I'm not sure if they did or didn't. What's viral about it is the brutal flogging of these three persons, that eventually went viral. The Kwara State government has stated that a probe has begun into this incident, and the leader of that particular Islamic school has been suspended. I'm not sure if the government can actually suspend him, but that's what the news is saying for now. And so the different angles to some of all of this is how, I've personally always said that, religion has really just been a tool of control for mostly the poor, aside it being a tool of control, but it really only affects, poor people negatively. I read a story yesterday of a person who said that he had a colleague who, had sex with a cousin of his, the daughter of his father's brother. And so when they found out, they took the two of them to, part of the village. And of course, the way to, of course, prevent the wrath of the gods on both families when something like that happens. So when incest happens, is to tie both of them in the bush for 3 days. But you know, fortunately for them, one of them's father was very, very wealthy. And so somehow, some way, they made the gods understand that they don't need to tie them in the bush for 3 days. They can instead buy 2 or 3 cows and put them in the bush for 3 days, you know, pay some money here and there. And, you know, those things would eventually be sorted. The gods would understand that these cows would, you know, replace the persons who committed the war crimes against their traditions and whatnot. But that's that's a situation where, of course, one person is very, very wealthy and can bribe, you know, the traditions, or bribe his way or her way out of whatever religious, expectations that there are. And that's why I said, you know, religion really, yes, has been a tool of control, but sometimes it really only affects the poor people the most. Is it necessary? And at this point, do we also need to now be able to separate, some of these traditional and religious practices, you know, separate them from what the Constitution says and what, you know, our laws, as people say, and which of them really should supersede each other? Can a person like that really sue for any reason whatsoever? Physical abuse, harm, bodily harm, or whatever it is that the law says. Where really does the law stand when, religion has gone beyond, the lines that it should cross? Those are some of the very, very important questions that a lot of people need to start asking. And also, the power of social media. Because if this didn't get on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, a lot of people wouldn't even know that this happened. There wouldn't be any investigation today. And, these people would have gone home, to treat their wounds and moved on with their lives. But, of course, there's an investigation by the Kwara State government simply because these videos went viral. And of course, got a lot of people talking about it. And so these are some of the things, that, need to really, really be spoken about. But one final thing that I will say is how Nigerians are so used to abuse that you would still see these same persons continue to attend these schools and continue to be brutalized in this way, because they believe it's a tradition, and of course they should get punished for whatever crimes that they commit. And it is, it is what it is. Nigerians are used to abuse on many, many, many levels that they have zero idea what their rights are, what, rights they should be always able to fight for. And that's, some of the things that I will mention. Abuse from government, abuse from the church, abuse from the Islamic schools, abuse, from, in their relationships, abuse from successive Nigerian governments. And that's why you see it. You're going to see some of all these things coming up in the next 1 year, where some of the persons that have abused Nigeria and abused the Nigerian state, in very corrupt ways, have given Nigeria nothing or no level of growth whatsoever. Some of those persons, you still see Nigerians campaigning for those same people and ready for another 4 years of abuse and suffering and whatever it is, because Nigerians are used to abuse. And the same way, you would still see persons supporting, what happened in that school and say, oh, well, it's part of the tradition, so it's part of the laws of the school, and that's, the punishment when you break or flout some of these rules. It is mind-boggling, and I will never be able to wrap my head around how badly bitten the mindset many Nigerians are, that there's levels of abuse that they tolerate and they see as normal. And you hear it from even the learned. You hear it from people who have doctorate degrees, people who have master's degrees, people who you believe or you would expect should know better. They have been abused on that level that they don't even see anything wrong with abuse. We'll follow up on that story, and of course, if anything new, comes up from it, we'll definitely be sharing with you here on The Breakfast. Also on top trending this morning, we move to the southeast now, where the IPOB, in a statement, has announced a ban on what they term Fulani cattle. It was a statement that was released over the weekend by the IPOB's head of Directorate of State, Mazi Chika Edoziem. He disclosed this in a statement that, within the next 6 months, there's going to be a ban on what they term Fulani cattle. And the only kind of cattle that would be reared in the southeast would be the Igbo cattle. I can't remember the Igbo term for it. I don't want to say the wrong thing, but there's a term for that they call it, Igbo cattle. That statement, of course, also went viral over the weekend with a lot of people, some agreeing and saying yes, because according to the statement, the Fulani cattle has brought in some of these marauders and people who have, led to the death and killings and rape of people of the Southeast. And so in order to stop those persons from coming to the Southeast, they would ban, also, the sale of all, in quote, once again, Fulani cattle. I'm not sure how much of the Igbo cattle, or the Igbo cattle actually exists in the Southeast. I'm not sure what species of cattle that really is. Or if, like some people have said, the meat is sweeter, the cows are bigger, some of all of that. I can't completely verify some of those claims. Or if it would be, within, possibilities that, in the next 6 months, they will be able to replace the vast majority of cattle in all the cattle markets in the Southeast, because there's many, many of them in the Southeast. In Enugu, in Aba, in Anambra, many places in the Southeast have their own cattle markets that are mostly run by, people from the North. But some other thing is, aside those people from the North who run those cattle markets and, of course, who come and trade their cattle, there's also businesses that have, emanated that, of course, benefit people of the Southeast. And so this, may not just be for the, cattle herders from the North who would get to suffer some of all these, new laws or new bans here and there. Of course, it will affect people of the Southeast whose businesses have been centered around selling of meat and cattle and whatnot. Also, if there is, someone from the North who decides, okay, well, since you guys are banning Fulani cattle in the North, we're going to ban, certain items that Igbos trade in the North, then it's obviously going to be chaotic across the country. And that also may not, be something that anybody is looking forward to. Two more things that I would quickly mention is the person, Mazi Chika Edoziem, who has put out this statement, who is the Directorate of State, as it is called, for the IPOB. I can, very likely tell you that he, doesn't also live in the Southeast. Neither does he live in Nigeria. And the reason I'm pointing that out is because if you remember, the Southeast governors not long ago put out some statements and said that most of the people who are giving these laws and these orders and making these statements to control IPOB members in the Southeast and have led them to commit crimes and chaos in the Southeast, most of the people who give out these orders don't even live in Nigeria. They don't get to suffer the effects of some of these things that they say. It's a Monday morning. Enugu very likely will be shut down today. Businesses wouldn't open. Many other parts of the Southeast would also be shut down simply because of the same IPOB order that they have, in quotes, denied and said that they, have called off. But of course, it doesn't seem very likely that a lot of people, believe in those statements. And so the Mondays will still be shut off or be closed down. The persons who gave these orders for Mondays to be, sit at home, don't live in Nigeria, don't suffer any of the consequences of some of all these things. And that includes Chika Edoziem, the person who has now stated that in 6 months, there will be no sale of Fulani cattle in the Southeast. Final point concerning this issue is the fact that I continue to ask, and I've continued to point out, the failure and the lack of actual government and respect for government in the Southeast, for many reasons. One of them, of course, would be because the IPOB has been able to create a narrative and so to the people that your governors, your political leadership, both in National Assembly, local government level, state level, House of Assembly, have all failed. They're not there to represent you. They're simply there to enrich themselves. They've sold that narrative well enough. And there's a large number of people who actually believe in it, but because, well, there's many reasons to believe that. Many opportunities that the political leadership in the Southeast should have been able to speak up for the people and failed to do so. Many times when people have also looked out for, simple amenities that don't even exist in the Southeast. And so that, narrative is easy to sell from the IPOB to the people. And you can then say that even those people who aren't necessarily IPOB members or don't even believe in the idea of Biafra would also agree that, yes, some of their points are valid. And so, in the lack, in the space where there's a complete lack of respect for political leadership because of what they've done to themselves, I'm talking of political leaders now, and the way that they've positioned themselves in the last, couple of decades. When the IPOB then steps into that place and says, this is going to be our new law, a lot of people would simply comply because they don't expect that the political leadership or the traditional leadership or anybody will be able to do better or speak on their behalf or, take the mantle of leadership and actually, do different. And so very, very many people do not believe or trust in the political leadership in the Southeast. And that's why these orders will continue to come. They can decide, any time, any market day, that there's no longer going to be sale of onions, no longer going to be sale of tomatoes. In fact, they can decide that, people should stop eating certain type of soups or certain type of stews. Any order that they feel like. They can even decide that there will be no marriage anymore in the Southeast. And people would say, yeah, well, yes, this is what the IPOB has said, and we will agree with it. Even those who do not agree would not want to be caught, in the violence that, might be the effects of, disagreeing or going against the IPOB's orders. There urgently needs to be some level of dialogue with the IPOB and the government, and of course I'm talking of the Southeast government and the Nigerian government, to ensure that some of this madness ends. The reason there needs to be dialogue is because we can no longer, and Nigeria can no longer, in fact, Nigeria should have never really, pushed aside the idea of the IPOB and what they are fighting for, and acted like they don't matter, because obviously they actually do matter. And some of the things that they are saying really creates a huge effect across the Southeast. And so let's see what the next 6 months brings. If yes, people would actually stay away from, buying in quote Fulani cattle. If, of course, some of those markets will be attacked, I hope not. If the government of the Southeast will be able to protect those markets because of the economic value that they also bring to the Southeast. If the governments of the Southeast will be able to step in, and ensure that, nothing like that actually happens, and they protect people from the North who come to do business in the Southeast, mostly business of cattle. Our final top trending story, of course, is, a good one for me, simply because I expected that this would happen, and that is the victory of Tyson Fury against Deontay Wilder over the weekend. As expected, but of course they went, all 11 rounds. It was almost, a 12-round, fight. They got to the 11th round, and Tyson Fury eventually came out winner, beating Deontay Wilder like he stole phone at Computer Village, beating him, black and blue, left and right, up and down. It was really interesting and beautiful for me to watch, and I'm sure a lot of people across Nigeria who are fans of boxing truly enjoyed this fight. It started very, very early on Sunday morning, and was over by the time people woke up to go to church. A very, very interesting game of boxing that, of course, produced for the third time Tyson Fury as a winner of that trilogy fight. Of course, now I've seen a lot of people and a lot of Nigerians advising Anthony Joshua, that if he knows what's good for him, he should completely stay away from Tyson Fury, who can continue to bring, the likes of Samuel Peters and Andy Ruiz and whoever else, to fight with Joshua. But, nothing should put him in the same ring with Deontay Wilder or Tyson Fury. And that's the best advice, no matter who is advising Anthony Joshua, his coach, his babalawo, the pastor of his church, anybody who's advising him should completely tell him to stay away from a ring that has Tyson Fury or Deontay Wilder in it. And of course, I would also give kudos to Deontay Wilder for going all 11 rounds. His legs were weak for, majority of, that fight. He, of course, got burnt out and eventually lost the fight. And one other thing, of course, I would mention is one thing that I love about Tyson Fury is the energy that he brings, the perseverance, and of course, the things that he says also. If you listen to the post-match commentary where they both were interviewed, where he was interviewed, he spoke about, the fact that no matter how many times you get knocked down, because it was knocked down twice in the fourth round, no matter how many times you get knocked down, what's most important is that your mind and your body and yourself know that you should always be able to stand up and keep fighting for whatever it is that you're fighting for. Remember to always stand up and continue fighting until you get what you want. And of course, he also finished the game by singing a song in the ring. If you remember last year after the fight, he did a song by Madonna, American Pie. This time, I'm not sure who did the song, but the song was titled Walking in Vegas. He also performed that song right after the fight. Beautiful from Tyson Fury. Those are our top trending stories this Monday morning. Welcome once again to The Breakfast. We'll take a short break. When we come back, Off the Press comes up next. What major stories have made the headlines across the nation this morning? We'll be sharing with you.
Hello and welcome. It's Nimasa This Week, the voice of maritime. Nimasa This Week is brought to you by the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. Statutorily mandated to ensure that there is regulation and promotion of matters affecting our waters. NIMASA bears responsibility for search and rescue, shipping development, and ship registration.
NIMASA This Week, the voice of maritime, showing on this channel.
Businesses in Africa can be very challenging. In Nigeria, it is particularly intimidating, and successful builders have learned how to navigate a hostile environment to unlock opportunities. But one major challenge businesses face is how to filter through the noise and identify where their ideal customers exist. Get insight and practical steps from industry players and captains of industries. Hear success stories to help you make informed decisions as you scale your business in Nigeria. Watch Business Insights at this time on PlusTvAfrica.
Welcome once again to The Breakfast here on PlusTvAfrica. Now let's go to Off the Press and have a review of the stories making headlines across the country this morning. We're starting with the Daily Independent newspapers. Expect that should be on your screen in a few seconds. Yes. It says, banks fear e-Naira may erode profitability. Plateau local government polls, APC clears all chairmanship and councillorship positions. Also, 1999 Constitution is a glorified death certificate, says Bakari. Tinubu reunites with associates as Sanwo-Olu hosts APC leader. It says, I return hale and hearty and well. And that's from the ex-governor. Autumn not responsible for insecurity, says Middlebelt Forum. And petroleum tanker drivers suspend planned nationwide strike. 2023 presidency, Osinbajo on a collision course with Tinubu pushes to succeed Buhari. We can also find on the Daily Independent, 308 billion naira presidency, National Assembly budgets dwarf Ministry of Powers 301 billion naira. Zoning PDP national chairmanship position, leaving presidency open risky, says Bode George. Now let's move away from the Daily Independent to what we can find on the Punch. It says here, why federal government can't remove fuel subsidy now. And that's from NNPC marketers and experts. It will be disastrous to remove subsidy without refineries working, Ipman says. And subsidy now political matter, all Nigerians shouldering it, says ex-LCCI DG. No provision in 2022 budget, but petrol subsidy continues, declares NNPC. Budget. Finance power projects get lion's share of 1.16 trillion naira loans. And also federal government to spend 44.64 billion naira on military equipment, arms and ammunition. SAN writes Malami threatens suit over Nigeria's $62 billion with oil firms. Change of guard imminent in 2021. Throw away 1999 Constitution, says Bakari. Still on the news, or still on the Punch rather, presidency, Dokpesi backs North. Tinubu says restructuring a must. Special salary, paying education students unsustainable, and it's a Greek gift, says the NPTA. Students merciless beating, Kwara orders Arabic school heads suspension, raises panel. We can also find here, NDLEA raids Lagos, Oyo drug joints and others, arrest 110 dealers. Man arrested for allegedly defiling 13-year-old neighbor's daughter as wife goes for vigil. Those are the big ones on the Punch this morning. And now let's see what the leadership newspapers has. It says here, each Nigerian owes foreign creditors 64,684 naira. Puts Nigeria in the right direction, Bakari tells President Muhammadu Buhari. And also, only God can give and take life. That's from former Lagos State Governor Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Nigerians kick as federal government approves genetically modified maize. And I think that's all we can share on the leadership this morning. Finally, on the Daily Trust this morning, Borno IDPs sacked by insecurity, fleeced by aid workers. How sharp practices worsen matters. Officials deny neglect charge. Female IDPs survive through prostitution in Borno. And it says here, we've built 10,000 houses for them. 2 years after, federal government loses 24 billion naira to land border closure in Ogun. This is not the time to break up Nigeria, says the Vice President Osinbajo. Electoral Bill Senate Rep Committee to meet this week for harmonization. And I think a few others. Pandora Papers, how Bishop Oyedepo set up company for wife and kids in tax haven. Despite release claim, Niger monarch still missing 1 month after. And finally, 2022, federal government votes 650 million naira for Mambila Power Project. I'm going to start this morning and say good morning to our guest, Mr. Mark Adebayo. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning, viewers.
Thanks for joining us. I want us to start with the story on the top right or top left corner of the Daily Independent. It says 308 billion naira presidency and National Assembly budgets dwarfs Ministry of Power's 301 billion naira. Let's start with your thoughts on that one.
Well, thank you so much. The successive governments in this country have always misplaced priorities when it comes to the annual ritual of budgeting, where the government do not see a reason to fund the critical sectors that will affect the lives of Nigerians positively. I think power issue is a major challenge in this country, and it should get the priority attention of government. But we are not seeing that in this budget. As I'm talking to you now, there is no power here. I have to be using alternative source of power. Abuja's power situation is always very, terrible from inception. That is why if you look at the budget of the federal government itself, you see billions of naira every year being budgeted for generators, and it is a shame that we're having that. I believe that power should have gotten more, rather than the other frivolous expenditures, which we are having, in this budget. I mean, for instance, this year's budget, the federal government is budgeting. I mean, next year, 2022, is budgeting 26 billion naira for travels and feeding of the presidency alone. I mean, who does that? And then in this heavily indebted economy, now you are budgeting 26 billion for yourself for feeding and travels alone. I mean, that. We keep misplacing our priorities. The government, it's not only this government that is guilty of that. Even the government before it. Only that this one is more guilty. That is the problem we are having. How can you budget 26 billion for feeding and travels, and look at how much you are budgeting for power? It is almost sinful. Honestly, there's a misplacement of priority. If you look at the total budget breakdown, we are having a budget. We are having a budget of 16.39 trillion, and if you look at the allocations, some are not. Maybe education is faring better this year. For next year, more than previous years, but just faring a little bit better. But I believe education still deserves more than it's got this year. And another thing is that because this, look at the financing. You are going to finance this budget by 3.61 trillion naira. Financing of debt servicing alone is you are getting that much. So it's a situation where you are in this type of depression, economic depression that Nigeria is currently going through. What you need to do is to face the critical sectors like education, like defense, because we are having insecurity, infrastructure, health. Those are the areas that should take priority attention of government, should take humongous percentage of the budget, but we are not having that.
All right. I'm going to say good morning also to Tunde Kolawole. Thanks for joining us. Mr. Kolawole, can you hear us?
Yeah, good morning. How are you?
Very well. Thanks for joining us. I want to get your thoughts on also on the Daily Independent. It says here 1999 Constitution is a glorified death certificate, and that's from Tunde Bakari. Let's get your views on that one.
Hello.
Can you hear us clearly, Mr. Kolawole?
Good morning.
Tunde Kolawole, good morning.
Your question again.
All right, I want you to react to the story from Tunde Bakari on the Daily Independent. All right, we're going to have to we'll reconnect with Tunde Kolawole. Mr. Adebayo, can you hear us?
I'm hearing you loud and clear.
All right, so let's get your view on that one. It says 1999 Constitution, glorified death certificate, and that's from Tunde Bakari.
Well, the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, as amended, is actually a death sentence of this country. Ab initio, from the very beginning, it was never meant to sustain this country. It is an unsustainable constitution, being administered on unsustainable structures, because the constitution defines the structures of the country, and the current structure as we have a unitarized federalism. It's just a glorified federalism. We are not operating a federal system, actually. So the 1999 Constitution is a death sentence of the country. It is moribund. It is unsustainable. And if we must keep Nigeria safe, if we must save Nigeria from premature death, we need to review the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1999 as amended, to ensure true federalism. We cannot have, in a country of over 200 million people with the kind of diversity that we have, we cannot have a unitary system of government. And that is what we are having now. It is not sustainable. We have to go back to that constitution. If we must silence the people that are agitating for, secession, we need to revisit the 1999 Constitution by allowing the country to practice true federalism. We need to go back to what used to work for us, which is regional government. That is what I believe, that the 6 geopolitical zones must be able to exercise independence in terms of governance in many areas. We should just leave customs, defense, international diplomacy to the federal government. Let these regions determine their own fate by themselves, economic fate, their social fate, their political fate by themselves. We cannot have one person sitting in Abuja and dictating to everybody around the country. It's not going to work. So the 1999 Constitution is an albatross that we must throw away and give us a living constitution. I agree to that extent with Pastor Tunde Bakari that we have to review the 1999 Constitution so that to make this country work. It's unworkable. The 1999 Constitution is unworkable. So it's not working for this country. We need to do something. We need to tinker with it.
Okay. I'm going to try once again. Tunde Kolawole, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Good morning.
All right, good morning once again. All right, so let's move away from the Constitution now. And there seems to be, on the Daily Independent, one story that is, having different angles. It says here, Tinubu reunites with associates as Sanwo-Olu hosts APC leader, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And at the same time, on the Daily Independent, it says 2023 presidency, Osinbajo on collision course with Tinubu pushes to succeed Buhari. What are your views? And, is it likely that this is just clickbait?
Well, those are two very interesting stories rather than them. If I have my way, I wouldn't be commenting as such on Alhaji Bola Ahmed Tinubu. In my humble opinion, I sympathize with him with respect to some of the health challenges that he has had very, very lately. But when we are talking in terms of presidency, that is the person who will be succeeding General Muhammad Buhari. I am not too sure Shivaji is a fit and proper person to succeed in for so many reasons. Age is not on his side, just like Dr. Banire has said. Anybody above the age of 60 shouldn't be shadowing the responsibilities of the presidency of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, 1923. We have enormous challenges in our hands. We therefore need a very, very agile person who can move around, who can shake things off, who has the wherewithal to be able to pilot the affairs of the country. Take, for example, look at what Macron is doing in France. Wherever there is a problem, wherever there are challenges, you find the President Macron hopping around the places in his chopper to douse tensions, to talk to people, and to make sure that the country is piloted aright. With Osinbajo, I'm also not sure that he has the credentials to become the presidency of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for also a few reasons. One, when you read the Nigerian Constitution, the economy of the country is put in the hands of the Vice President. And the General Muhammad Buhari has also come out to say, look, he gave that portfolio to Professor Yemi Osinbajo. If you look at what the performance of the economy today, it means that Vice President Osinbajo has said woefully. If you study the responsibility of managing the economy and the economy is in this kind of status, then what is likely to be his performance even if he becomes the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Furthermore, I see a lot of people praising him. He is pastor, he is intelligent, he is an orator, and all manners of things and all that. But you see, they say, tell me, show me your friends, and I will predict who you are. If Vice President Osinbajo is able to operate this smoothly and this freely in the midst of the people who have perfected kleptocracy and legitimized it, that means he himself may not be as clean or as patterned as people are pretending or are presenting him as he is. For God's sake, these two people should save Nigeria. The tragedy of what we are witnessing under the APC and President General Muhammad Buhari's regime. Shivaji is too old for the job. He also appears not to be medically and physically fit. Too many controversies too with regards to issues of corruption. Just look at the house he's staying in London today. The report in the paper today is that that property where he went to recuperate, where people have been visiting, was bought with flush money. He hasn't come out to deny that, even though the person that said it's fronted for him or bought the house for him is trying to deny it. But the Pandora paper, which international journalists investigated and came up with, just like the ones they did before, hardly tell lies. If Nigerians, journalists are not thorough with some of their investigations, you can't say that with those foreign journalists. A consortium of journalists from different parts of the country, some of the best in their trade, came out with that very ringing indictment.
Mr. Kolawole. Can you hear me, Mr. Kolawole?
So, for that reason, I don't think we should be talking about those two people's presidencies.
All right. I'm gonna bring in Mark Adebayo on the same discussion, but I want you to take it from the angle of Southwest politics, and if this really is just a newspaper trying to create chaos here and there. But Mr. Adebayo, what are your thoughts? And how do you expect this to play out with regards the struggle for power around the Southwest politicians?
Thank you so much. It's a real struggle for power. I want to think. Personally, I would have loved to see an Asiwaju with his pedigree, like he did in 2015, and like he has been doing in Lagos, to just nominate a young, vibrant person to become Nigeria's next president. It will further enhance its political credibility as a statesman in this country. It will have been better for him to do that. But having said that, he has the constitutional right to contest for the presidency of Nigeria. His biggest undoing is not even himself. You know, he has a couple of baggages, like the lawyer mentioned. But if General Muhammadu Buhari, at his age, had performed as a president, had given Nigerians the kind of leadership he promised in 2015, nobody will be talking about the issue of age. The age consideration will not come into the leadership variable of Nigeria if General Muhammadu Buhari had performed well. But this is a president who has performed less than 10%. So people believe it's age, but I do not believe it is age. I mean, he's about the same age with the president of the US. So it's not about age. It is everything General Muhammadu Buhari has been doing is intentional, whether in the area of open grazing, whether in the area of tracing grazing routes or enabling Mietiala and all those things. They are intentional. So it's not age. The president, what is happening is a question of competence. And on the issue of Osinbajo, Professor Osinbajo, the issue is that I do not believe that Professor Osinbajo has the kind of free hand that people think he has. I don't think so. I don't think he has the free hand to even run the economy the way he should. He has the boss. He has to clear things. Even at times we are hearing that he has to clear things with the President Chief of Staff and the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. It is as bad as that. So I do not think we should blame him for that. But I want to believe that Nigerians will prefer a new face as president of Nigeria, a new face. Let me call it a political virgin as the next president of Nigeria, a young, vibrant, educated, Nigerian to become the next president of Nigeria. That is where the pendulum should swing now. I don't think the political power.
Mr. Adebayo, what do you think about the possibilities of a clash between these two persons and factions that might be pitching tents, either with Bola Ahmed Tinubu or with Osinbajo? And if the Nigerian government, if the Buhari administration decides to, and this is me just thinking, wild, if the Buhari government decides to, support, and the Buhari government decides to pitch its tent with the vice president as its preferred, successor. Of course, there's always been rumors that, Bola Ahmed Tinubu had expectations of also taking over, after Buhari. So what do you think is likely of that clash?
Now, there's something that the fella called a rough fight. And then we have been hearing of this since last year, that there's a major clash of interest between the vice president and his political godfather, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I do not think this will work well for the Southwest. If these two titans should clash, it's not going to work, in the interest of the Southwest. The earlier they settled this, the better. Nobody should hide under one finger, thinking both of them have presidential ambitions. The VP has presidential ambition. Bola Ahmed Tinubu's presidential ambition is not a hidden agenda. It has been on the front burner for a long time now. And we are here since last year. We have been hearing there are some clashes of interest, and you can see that there were moves. There have been moves across the country by both political figures in the area of 2023 presidential race. So definitely when it comes to power play, there will be clashes. How it pans out later, only God will know. But if the presidency should, and that is going to be the game changer, wherever the presidency goes, whoever the presidency supports, that's going to be the game changer in this matter, in these calculations.
All right,
you know,
we'll see.
What we know is that both of them have enough baggages that can disqualify them from the presidency, and they are going to bring out the worst of themselves when the fight commences for real.
All right, we'll see how it turns out. Tunde Kolawole, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, so now let's move to Borno State. It's a story on the Daily Trust that I found very interesting. It says here, sacked by insecurity, fleeced by aid workers. And it's talking about how sharp practices have worsened the situations of persons in IDP camps. It says also that female IDPs survive through prostitution in Borno, while the government is claiming that they've built them 10,000 houses. Share your thoughts on that one.
Well, it's a tragedy in the first instance that people within their own country become internally displaced persons. But before I address that, let me quickly make a little comment on what my colleagues over there have said about age not being a factor. I disagree with him that age is a factor. In countries where age are no issues are those countries that have very, very strong institutions, where governance is almost autopilot. Put anybody as the president of America, no matter what his age is, since if he remains mentis corpus, that is, if his brain capacity is still intact, he will be able to rule America conveniently and effectively. But here, institutions are not functioning, they are not working. So if you put somebody who is not on top of his game, who cannot do things himself, he is likely to be a colossal failure. With the clashes of these two people, I agree with him that it is President Muhammad Buhari at the end of the day that is going to be the game changer. So be that as it may, let's go to the IDP. The IDP people is an unfortunate thing. Just like I said, people getting displaced in their own country, almost 10 years becoming refugees in their own country. It's not tidy enough. And then more importantly, we are not making provisions for these people to be able to live a decent life. Look at the budget that has just been presented to the National Assembly. How much have you seen there that has been budgeted for the IDP compared to what has been budgeted for the Nigerian Army, compared to what has been budgeted for travels and other exigencies in the presidency? So I wouldn't be, if you also add to it the challenges of corruption that we see, or which is manifest in places like prison, in which sums of money are earmarked for the feeding of the inmates. But those inmates virtually have to feed themselves. You could expect that the same thing is happening to the IDP. Besides the Borno State governor, who in my humble opinion appears to be sincere, appears to be hardworking, appears to be showing a lot of empathy to really rescue people from the dilemma or from this quagmire they have found themselves. I haven't seen much from any other, or from the federal government, for example, to alleviate the challenges that the IDPs are facing. So if the women are now into prostitution to be able to feed themselves, if they are also, like we have had in some quarters, even selling their children to be able to raise money to keep those and body together, some are also into selling of drugs and what have you. Some have also become informants for the insurgents, for the bandits. Some are also gun runners in some of those IDP centers, simply because we have refused to make proper provisions for their upkeep. Not too long ago, you remember, money that should have been made to take care of IDP, millions of naira, were said to have been used to cut grass in the IDP camp. Not too long ago, too, the Nigerian Air Force had mistakenly bombed an IDP camp. Up till now, we haven't had much with regard to the compensation. And then the inquiry that was committed, where that terror came from, in some other countries of the world, very high power panel will be set up and appropriate sanctions and the remedies put in place to ensure that has not happened again. But because we didn't investigate the first one, 2 other ones has happened since then. So the government should sit up. The Nigerian people, the philanthropists should also come forward to support, especially the governor of Borno State, to ensure that we elevate the sufferings of these IDP people. It's a nice thought that people will become internally displaced persons within their own country, in their own fatherland, because of an insurgency, because of a religious war that is self-inflicted by unconscionable and irresponsible.
You have less than 1 minute.
All right, I think we lost Tunde Kolawole there. Mark Adebayo, can you still hear us?
Yeah, I'm hearing you.
All right, so let's get you to speak on something on the Punch this morning. It says, why federal government can't remove fuel subsidy now? And NPC marketers and experts are saying, and it goes on to say it will be disastrous to remove subsidy without refineries working. And that is from Ipman. Subsidy now a political matter, all Nigerians shouldering it. And also no provision in 2022 budget, but petrol subsidy continues, declares the NNPC. Share your thoughts on that one.
Well, let me start from the last one. The NNPC says there's no provision for subsidy in the 2022 budget, but says that the subsidy will continue. I don't know the kind of magic they are going to perform to bring that to bear. We are told that the Nigerian subsidizes oil to the tune of 150 billion naira per month, and that is 1.8 trillion naira annually. We are told that the landing cost of petroleum in this country is 256 naira. We buy for 162 now, which means that the government subsidizes to the tune of 94 naira per liter. Okay. One of the biggest frauds, electoral fraud committed by President Buhari, was to tell us in 2015 that there was nothing like fuel subsidy in the country. But for the past 6 years, he has been running a regime of subsidies. Whatever will happen, my own major concern is that nobody should even think of removing any subsidy, because Nigerians are already over-oppressed, over-repressed, over-depressed in terms of the economy of the country. Food prices are skyrocketed by a minimum of 400%. So we are already overburdened. So you cannot put any other burden on Nigerian masses. So they have to find a way to continue subsidizing the fuel consumption of Nigerians. So the fact that NNPC says they will continue to subsidize is good tidings, and I think they should just continue to subsidize it no matter what happens. If the presidency can allocate 26 billion naira for feeding for 2 families, they should be able to continue to subsidize the fuel consumption of Nigerians.
Yeah, but fine, because we're about to wrap up. I want you to help us understand this. If there's no provision for it in the budget, then where does the money come from? To continue to pay subsidy.
That was why I said I do not know the magic that NNPC is going to perform. No,
but doesn't that tell you? Doesn't that mean that there are some sharp practices here and there, and some auditing that proper auditing that needs to be done with what really is going on with Nigeria's money?
Which means that the president was right when he said in 2015 that nobody was subsidizing anything. Maybe now they have woken up to spend the coffee. Maybe we are not going to see the reality of the fact that subsidy is a fraud. And even if you remove it, if you don't put it in the budget, we can still continue to buy fuel at 162 naira. It means that something is fishy somewhere. Now, you say you are not putting the subsidy in the budget, but NNPC is coming out to say that they will continue subsidizing even if the subsidy is not in the budget. And I agree with Ipman that it will be disastrous for anybody to think of increasing the fuel prices again in this country. Look at what you are passing through in terms of electricity tariff. So if anybody increases, so if they say they are not going to increase it and it's not in the budget, it shows that the subsidy regime had been an abracadabra all this while, and they have an abracadabra response to it to make us continue to buy fuel at the current rate without it being in the budget. So somebody, if it happens, there will be inquiries, there will be investigations. People have questions to answer. That is going to be the president of Nigeria is the petroleum minister. So he has questions to answer. And, so he has to, people have to tell us, where have all the subsidies been going to? We need to interrogate that issue. It will be interrogated. And that is what I think. But the most important thing is that, for me, is that nobody should think of increasing the pump price of fuel products. Nobody should think about that. It should not come at all. It's going to lead to a cataclysmic response from Nigerians.
And of course, bear in mind that gas prices currently are, the highest that they've ever been. Same thing with diesel.
And the same with diesel. The same thing with kerosene that used to be the cheapest among the petroleum products. I don't know, but I think 1 liter of kerosene now is around 250, 260. 1 liter of kerosene that is supposed to be a succor for the masses is costlier than petrol, than PMS. Is costlier than this. So it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
Right.
How do you even defend that? That was one area that late President Yar'Adua, did very well. He reduced the cost of PMS and made sure that kerosene got to the masses who needed it. And he cut down the price substantially. How come people are now buying kerosene at that high cost? It's ungodly. It's in fact, it's unthinkable. And it's a part of our leadership strategy, the tragedy.
All right. Mark Adebayo, thank you very much. And very interesting conversations with you this Monday morning. Thanks for staying with us. And of course, wish you a beautiful weekend.
PlusTvAfrica remains the best in terms of human angle stories that concern Nigerians. And kudos to you for that.
Thank you very much. Also to Nicola Wale, thank you also for your time. And sadly, we lost you at some point. We wish you a very interesting Monday ahead. Stay with us when we come back. A little bit of history. We're going back to 2002 to tell you about a Nobel Peace Prize that was given to a person on this day. We'll be back.
Nigeria's Niger Delta region, from where the black gold fuels Africa's largest economy, where the lines between wealth and poverty has never been thinner. Conflicts, poverty, insecurity, and environmental challenges daily confront the region. How can the Niger Delta story be changed for the better?
Join Mamude Akuga at 9 p.m. every Friday evening on PlusTvAfrica as he probes deep in search of solutions.
Inside the Niger Delta with Mamude Akuga, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region.
Welcome once again to The Breakfast. And just before our first major conversation for today, let's go back in history to the year 2002. On this day, the 11th of October 2002, former President Jimmy Carter won the Nobel Peace Prize. Of course, he won it for his decades of undying efforts to find peaceful solutions to international conflicts, to advance democracy and human rights, and to promote economic and social development. The Nobel Committee had wanted to give Carter the prize that year for his efforts and how much time and effort that he had put into trying to create a more peaceful world through many acts of democracy and negotiations and books that he had also written. The Nobel Prize in Economics was first awarded in 1969, and Carter was the third U.S. president to receive the award, worth $1 million. Carter also helped fight disease and improved economic growth in developing nations, and also has served as an observer at numerous political elections around the world. 3 other U.S. presidents have been similarly honored, and they are Theodore Roosevelt, Woodrow Wilson, and former President Barack Obama. And so on this day, former President Jimmy Carter won the Nobel Peace Prize. And of course, that was a $1 million attached to that Peace Prize in 2002, the 11th of October. Now let's move to our first major conversation for today. It is the PDP's timetable for its national convention, which is sometime in the month of October. We're going to be speaking with Diron Odeyemi, who's the Deputy National Publicity Secretary of the PDP, right after this short break.
Politics has helped shape the decision of the polity, from conspiracy theories to good old-fashioned comic politics.
These are the result of tomorrow's election. You have it already, Abi.
I am not hungry. If I need appointment, all I need to do is to start praising government.
Plus, politics will fill the polls of the country, from friends to frenemies, even strange bedfellows, to clones and stooges. We go beyond the rhetorics and the drama to analyze the story behind the story.
Let anybody come and say. The moment we stop having charlatans occupy political offices, we will curtail hate speech.
Plus Politics, not just another political show. It's about putting you, the citizens, in the know.
Welcome once again to The Breakfast on PlusTvAfrica. Now, let's introduce our first major conversation for today, the PDP's National Convention, which comes up sometime in the month of October. And, of course, we're going to be speaking with Mr. Diron Odeyemi, as Deputy National Publicity Secretary for the PDP. Good morning, Mr. Odeyemi. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me this morning.
Great to have you on PlusTvAfrica. Now, let's first of all start with clarifying the dates for the National Convention and, of course, picking up of forms of interest for, hopeful participants in the election.
Thank you very much. According to the timetable released by the National Organizing Secretary, Mr. Colonel Akobolu, forms will be available from today. And the last day for submission of the form will be on Saturday. On Monday, there is screening of aspirants, and Wednesday, Thursday, the names of successful aspirants will be displayed. And on the 29th to 38th, we will be having our national convention where national officers will be elected.
Okay, it seems like it is pretty well, laid out already for the party. Exactly. One thing that has, and I saw when this story was, put across social media, I saw a lot of, the reactions. One question that was asked a lot, an insinuation that was made, was that this really wasn't, looking like it was going to be a free and fair process. That, some of the persons that will be picking up interest forms had already, somehow, some way been known and, would simply be given these positions. Can you clarify exactly, how, that is false? And, ensure that, people who might have any interest can freely come to your convention and pick up a form or come to, pick up a form at the PDP?
He who alleges must be able to prove it. As far as I'm concerned, and as far as I know within the party, PDP remains the only party where internal democracy is enshrined and practiced to the letter. I don't know, and I'm sure there has not been anybody that has been, or that will be disturbed or that will be barred from collecting nomination form are presenting themselves for the election. Of course, there are personal interests and there are collective interests, and this is what we call politics. So whoever is interested must just go ahead and, obtain a form and present himself for the screening committee, and from there contest the election. Nobody, and I'm assuring you, nobody will stop anybody from collecting the form. But of course, you cannot rule out the element of interest here and there. It's collective, it is politics. You just have to play it as it is. I am presently the Deputy National Publicity Secretary. I am still looking out to God and for advice from people, friends, and colleagues to know if I'm going to contest again. Up to now, I've not declared any interest, and I've seen a lot of people aspiring to become the National Publicity Secretary of the party. So we have about 3-4 aspirants now. So if anybody is saying they have been disturbed or they are anticipating that there will be pre-selection, I want to disabuse their mind that PDP is a party that gives equality to all, especially when it comes to internal democracy. You don't have to be the son of anybody. You don't have to know somebody or anybody before you can become somebody in PDP.
Okay, pretty interesting. But another factor with regards, like you said, anybody can simply obtain a form. These forms are not free, are they?
Even in churches, preaching is not free. When you get miracle, it is not free. They do ask you to come and thank God. And parties are not run, free of charge. Money were spent on printing these forms. Money will be spent to organize this convention. There will be accommodation, there will be transportation, there will be venue, there will be a lot of things. So these are self-financed political parties, and that is why people must pay for the form. Nothing is free.
Okay. Can you clarify with us what the price range is like for these forms?
For the chairmanship, and the secretary, it's 3 million. And for other NWC positions, 2 million. And for other positions, 750,000 naira only.
Okay. And would you say that these are affordable figures for persons who really are of interest in making a change through the platform of the PDP?
Political parties are self-financed. And there are people who, without even contesting for an election, always contribute money to the party. And don't forget, even as a member of the party, you have obligations to make donation or to pay your dues to pay your dues to the party. So I don't see anything wrong with this prices. It's straightforward. It's very easy, and a lot of people will pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely, and I understand that. But of course, there has been conversations of being an inclusive party, a party that allows anybody who of course believes in a better Nigeria and wants to achieve those goals through the PDP to be able to do it under that platform. But 3 million naira, 2 million naira, 750,000 naira, I'm sure Mr. Deyemi, you would agree that those are not figures that any random Nigerian will be able to afford.
That is not true, and I disagree with you. People in PDP are not poor. That's why the fact that they are not government. They are not poor. And I can assure you that there are instances and situations whereby even friends will rally around you, they see you as a material. So it's not free. It's not going to be free. So there's nothing we can do about it other than to peg it at that minimal price. And which, if you compare to other political parties, you will know that PDP is lenient.
Very interesting. We probably will get back to this before we end the conversation. But I now want to talk about the PDP as a party. And one of the reasons, of course, I've mentioned this, and like you said, PDP is not poor. But I'm sure that the PDP is also hungry to have many, many more people join the party, to continue to increase the numbers of members that it has across the country and, beyond. So, Mr. Adeyemi, share with us, how much that has the PDP has fared with increasing its membership in the last couple of years. There's people who have said that, well, since there have been people jumping and leaving the PDP, they of course move along with their hundreds or maybe even thousands of followers. So do you think the PDP has done well enough in increasing its membership base in Nigeria in the last few years?
Our motto in PDP is power belongs to the people. We believe PDP is in existence because of the people, and we believe it is being driven by the people. Of course, there are big names, there are people you think you see that leave the party, and because of that you are seeing that they go with hundreds of thousands of people. It's not always the situation. There are people who believe that in PDP, that is where they can get free and freer membership. They believe that is the only political party that gives them the opportunity to operate as a Nigerian and in a political party. And right now, we have embarked on a membership drive through the internet. And if you see the figure coming out from each state, we are becoming to be rest assured that in 2033, we have more membership than any political party in Nigeria. And this is the reason why PDP has become attractive to people who want to contest for an election, both internally as a political party, as a member of the NWC, and externally for the presidential position and governorship. So the PDP is solid, is a political party that, by the time you think things are going wrongly for them, they will come, the way they are going to survive and come out, will be like a miracle. I'm sure a lot of people will not believe that PDP will still remain despite the little crisis we have among ourselves, which though is still in court, but as it is now, it is evident that the party is moving on, especially now that we are going into our convention. So PDP is a party that a lot of people are joining, and a lot of people are joining on daily basis. This I can assure you, and like I say.
Can you give us any, I'm not sure if you will be able to, any figures, as to the number of people who have joined online? Because I saw those links being shared across social media, asking young Nigerians to also, take, advantage of that opportunity and get involved or, register as members of the party. Is there any figures, that you can share with us as to how many people?
To be sincere with you, I cannot quote any figure now because the registration is ongoing. And I have not even gone into how many people have registered so far. Perhaps now that you're asking the question, I will make sure I know the figure.
Okay. In conversations that I've had before with certain, other members of the party, one of the things that I asked was, how the PDP itself is positioning itself to be a party that is attractive to young Nigerians, seeing the vast number and the percentage of young people that currently live in Nigeria and are Nigerians. Our youth population is outstanding. Mr. Adeyemi, yes, there are political leaders in the PDP. There are names that have been there for a long time. There are people who currently are in the PDP that we've always known about. But do you think the PDP has positioned itself in a way that it looks inviting and accommodating for a vast number of young Nigerians to join the party and join its movement?
As a political party that is strategically planning to take over governance in 2023, and seeing the product or the outcome of what the youth did with the EndSARS that recently went past, the PDP as a political party has made it mandatory for women and the youth to take nothing less than 35% of our positions. And this will be evident in the coming convention, whereby it will be dominated by a lot of youth and blended with leaders who are experienced. You will see the combination of this in the NWC that we are going to form very soon. So that is to tell you that as a political party, we know the importance and the role of the youth and women in our political emancipation now. So that is why I am assuring and I'm saying it categorically that even at the last NEC meeting, it was specifically mentioned that youth and women will have their quota in the formation of the National Working Committee. So that is already, it is as if you peep into what we intend doing and we are just bringing it out. So it's in our plan.
Briefly, is there a possibility of a woman national, chairman?
Of course, people are free to obtain forms. The form is free. That would be very interesting. I as a person will support any woman that comes out to be the chairman of the party. It will be interesting.
Okay, Mr. Adeyemi. Now let's talk about the PDP as an opposition party. You made mention that the PDP, of course, as it tries to, take over power, the mantle of leadership in 2023, will do what it can. But I want you to share your thoughts with me on this one. Do you think that the PDP, will, have a chance simply because it has done exceptionally well as an opposition party, or because, Nigerians are tired of the current All Progressive Congress government? Which would you say is more likely the reason why the PDP stands a chance in 2023?
I will go for the two, both, not one. Of course, virtually every citizen of this country has become opposition to APC. Is it the suffering of the people that you want to talk about, or the insecurity, or the bad economy, or lack of good infrastructures, and everything in this country is upside down? So all Nigerians are in opposition, and if you are in opposition, that means you are in PDP and you are supporting PDP. And PDP as a political party has not done badly in opposing this government. We have exposed them enough in a decent manner and in such a way that we did not follow or toe the line they told before coming to office. There was no name they did not call Jonathan, and there was no blackmail they did not make against PDP. But we know that the oneness of the country is more important than the politics that we play. And we are not ready to play dirty with them. We have been decent. We have exhibited a lot of morality and a sense of oneness in this country in the way we oppose APC. And people know the reality. And people know the truth. And that is why we are not afraid that in 2023, Nigerians are going to vote en masse for PDP. And that is why up till now, people are interested in what goes on in PDP as against what is happening to APC.
Mr. Adeyemi, I'm sure you know that there's a difference between, like you said, there's many people who are, in the opposition and, are currently very, very upset with the APC. There's a difference between that and the PDP itself being an alternative. And so that's what I want you to, speak on next. As the opposition party, the biggest opposition party Nigeria currently has, do you think that the PDP has presented itself as an alternative? Do you think that it has also been able to, not just criticize, but also share brighter or better ways of running government compared to what the APC has done? Are people, like you said, interested in, taking the current APC government out of power simply because they are tired of the government, or because they've truly seen the PDP as a viable opposition that knows what it wants for Nigeria?
In my language, when you fall down, you look back to examine what made you to fall. PDP as a party has done that. We have re-examined ourselves. We knew where we made mistakes, and that was why Uche Secondary made a public apology to Nigeria, that we have never proved to be an encyclopedia of knowledge, and we didn't promise Nigerians that we are angels, that we are going to rule. But this time around, having left governance for almost 15 years, and for almost 8 years now, we know the importance of good governance. And we have our strategy. We have human resources. We have individuals who are so brilliant and are ready to take over the leadership of this country, who are in PDP. And we are presenting one of the best to Nigerians. And by the time we make that presentation through our free and fair primary election that is going to be conducted, Nigerians will know that PDP is actually ready to govern and win again. With brilliant manifestos, with assurance that we are going to put smiles on their faces, with assurance that we are going to correct the mistakes and the ills the APC has brought upon governance in this country. So we are ready as a political party, and with the way we are going, after our convention on the 30th of this month, you will see PDP in a new dimension, and you'll be proud of us in Nigeria.
Well, I think, of course, it's had about 7 years now to completely distinguish itself, as a party on a completely, new dimension. So some people may not agree with you. And of course, those are those people who say the APC and the PDP are one and the same. What Nigeria needs is a third force. What Nigeria needs is a new face. Mr. Adeyemi, what would your response be to those people who believe that really it's been the same persons who have been in either of both parties and they are one and the same, political party?
I will clap for them. I will be happy if there is any new political party that is coming, on board. It's not that there are no registered political parties in this country. There are too many. But how many have survived what both PDP and APC have gone through? There was a time, Showore presented himself as a candidate in this country. How many votes was he in Ghana? Dele Momodu presented himself as a presidential candidate. There have been political parties in the past formed by the late Power and Philip and all of them. Survival of a political party, since you are not going to bring people from Mali, from Ghana, from Togo, or from other places to run a political party, if they are still the same politicians in this country, let's see how they are going to make it. Let's see how they are going. It's good if they can build it. It depends on the leadership. It depends on the people. But you don't expect people who have left APC and PDP to say they are going to form another political party and come up with a different ideology. I don't see that aspect. I think the best thing for us in this country is to empower political parties. I believe in two political parties, especially when it was formed by the former military president, both the SDP and the NRC. It was extremely very difficult. It was extremely very difficult for Nigerians to move from one party to the other. You are only limited yourself to either APC, either NRC or SDP. I would want to see a situation like that in this country. So, but if there is a plan to form a third party, I welcome them. Let's see how far they can go. But I'm sure if there are still politicians in this country, I don't see them making any effort.
Well, that sounds more like, whichever third force will not be able to pull off what the PDP has pulled off, and so you are stuck with us. Mr. Adeyemi, isn't that what it sounds like?
Can you repeat the question again?
I'm saying your narrative sounds like the third force, and whoever it is that decides to pull off a new party will not be able to gather as much momentum as the PDP has been able to gather over the years. And so, Nigerians, you are stuck with us.
That is exactly what I'm trying to say. That is exactly my point. And the best you can do is to make sure that this political... I pray that we have an electoral law that forbids anybody from moving from one political party to the other. Or if you do that, you will forfeit whatever position you hold in that political party. This will stop people from waking up in the morning to say, yes, I was APC yesterday, I want to join PDP tomorrow. So that is what I would want our electoral law to streamline, but not the formation of too many political parties. And I don't see any third force surviving the political, surviving as a political party in this country. I don't see that.
Well, let's see how it goes. Now, let's talk about zoning. It's one of the things that has made major conversations across the country in the last few months. What is the PDP stance on zoning? There's been, of course, thoughts from Bode George, from Atiku Abubakar, and a few others concerning zoning, the chairmanship position, and what that necessarily or immediately means that the PDP will be picking a candidate from the South for 2023.
What we have done in PDP is to deal with the immediate problem. Though with the mindset of solving whatever will be the outcome of future issues. Zoning is essential, and I want to give kudos to Brian committee that did the political party, the zoning of the offices. And as delicate as that assignment was, they made it very simple for themselves by returning positions that were in the north to the south and the one in the south to the north. It was as simple as that. But that will not affect the issue of the presidency. When we could get to the bill, we know how to cross it. And I want to assure Nigerians that as a political party, we are strategical enough to know that we should present a candidate through which we can control or we can win 2023 election. So if I was voting for the presidential, let's leave that until we get there. Right now, the immediate problem or the immediate issue is putting laying a very good foundation, for the party, so that whoever is going to be our candidate will have a very strong footing to campaign with.
Yeah, but Mr. Adeyemi, when you say that, of course, what you've said now is that the PDP will pick a candidate, that has, a very strong chance, a strong footing, and is, most likely to win in 2023. Is that what you're saying?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, but will it also be important if you read the room around Nigeria and hear those people and those voices who say that they would like to see a candidate from the South? Which would be of more importance to the PDP? A candidate from the South, or a candidate that, more and more people want to see, or region that more people want to see, or a candidate that is more likely to win?
In mathematics, 2 plus 2 is 4, but in politics, it may be 10, it may be 9. Don't preempt PDP. We are capable of springing surprises when it is time. Even if we are going to choose the president either from the north or from the south, you just hold your breath and wait for us. We are going to choose from the right place at the appropriate time, and you will see us in action. That's the best way I can answer that.
Is the PDP also open to considering a candidate from the southeast?
As it is now, it is open to all zones. By the time they all come out, the PDP will do its screening, will do its assessment, and will give to Nigerians what they want that will make us to win 2023 election.
Oh, well, I hope that we'll have time to come back to that. And now I want us to move over to talking about the possibility of a merger. I've seen that, of course, Kingsley Moghalu and the ADC, as they are called, a new party that are also seeing what they can do to win, the seats in 2023, and maybe also on the state level across the country. Aside the ADC, I'm sure that there will also be other candidates. Is the PDP open to a merger between itself and other parties to grow in its strength, as the 2023 elections move closer?
The door of political party offices is always open. And that is why you see people who can go out, you see people who can come in. There is nothing wrong in coalition, and there is nothing wrong in cohabiting so as to win election. PDP is always open to individuals and to groups and to political parties that want to merge and forge ahead with them. So PDP as a party does not at any time close its door to coalition or people coming to join them to achieve success at the polls.
So will the PDP be open if that, possibility came of taking a person like Kingsley Moghalu under its umbrella.
That is exactly what I said. We are open. We welcome everybody. No political party will ever reject anybody coming to join them. It's never done. The more the merrier. And since it is the number that determines who wins an election, we will continue to look into ways to get that number to be able to win the election.
Okay. And I also want us to talk more on the, the air around the PDP and the narrative that a lot of Nigerians, and I've seen and I've read, people speak about certain persons like Atiku Abubakar, and, if he is, the direction, that the PDP really should be taking at this point. And of course, I don't expect that you would speak, ill of his chances or ill of him as a person. But, is the PDP also considering, that it needs a fresh, face, a new, energy around the party to get more Nigerians to believe in it?
You are asking me a question that I have not even had time to think about. What is uppermost on my mind now is the 29th to 38th of this month's convention. We are an orderly political party. We are very organized. It is one step after the other. And just like I said, when we get to the bridge, we know how to cross it. Atiku Abubakar, other people who might want to come out, let everybody come out. That is what the party has said. Through this zoning, all souls are free to present a candidate, and all individuals are free to come out to aspire. When it is time, the PDP will screen. The PDP will conduct a free and fair primary election, and whoever emerges as the candidate will, by the special grace of God, become the president of this country in 2024.
Dear Odeyemi, I truly enjoyed this conversation, and I'm going to, keep this in mind that you said 35% women and youth. That of course will be that is what the PDP has decided must stand in the convention, and also the PDP is also welcoming young Nigerians to join the party, among other things. But thank you very much for your time this morning, and looking forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I enjoyed the conversation too, and I'm happy to be with you. Thank you.
Have a good day, sir. All right, stay with us. When we come back, we're moving from the PDP to the APC. And, of course, little bits of political discussions here and there in the All Progressive Congress, internal politics mostly. That comes up next after the short break. Good morning.
It is engagement we need to have.
Those who suffer miscarriages are never taken into account.
Members of the National Assembly are also influence peddlers.
You are sitting on Nigerians' money.
From the barbing, I pay my rent. On the barbing, I send my children to school.
A consultative engagement.
No any tangible notification before they ban us.
It's one thing for people to be at your back and the heat of the moment, and another thing for them to still be with you when push comes to shove.
I will do everything to take Lagos out of the national grid.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect them. If you no talk, they go beat you. Now 2,500 when they pay.
For upcoming artists to blow in Nigeria.
Welcome to Plus Trending. I am Booking November, your host, saying thank you for joining us on today's episode.
Welcome back. It's tea time on Plus TV Africa.
Practice makes perfect. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm a lot better than I used to be.
He's a king. He's entitled to marry 100 if he wants to.
Welcome back to the Breakfast on Plus TV Africa. One of the stories that was shared on the papers this morning, I think on the Daily Independent, was, of course, Bola Ahmed Tinubu speaking about him back in the country and, of course, being hale and hearty. And the governor of Lagos State, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, also supporting, and doing what was, possible to, of course, welcome the former governor back into the state as the build-up to the 2023 elections, runs faster. But at the same time, there was also on the Daily Independent a story on the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, and it says here, Osinbajo on a coalition course with Tinubu pushes to succeed Buhari. We're speaking this morning with, once again, Mark Adebayo and Mr. Nika Gule. Good morning to you both. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me once again.
All right, Mr. Gule, good morning.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
I'm going to start with Mr. Gule this morning. Quickly, your views on the Southwest, and its positioning, its strategizing towards 2023. There have been criticism, and of course critics who have pointed out certain things that they either did well or did wrong in 2015 in bringing the current administration into power. As they, of course, we get close to 2023, share your thoughts on the positioning and the strategies of the Southwest with Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Professor Yemi Osinbajo as rumored?
Well, thank you very much. I think as a nation, we should move on. Whatever happened in 2015 is already water under the bridge. So it is already spilled milk, and we cannot continue to dwell on it because it's history. What we need as a nation is, how do we move forward? How do we get this country back on track? Because every analyst, if they are honest, will agree that all things are not well with Nigeria. So that will be my comment on what happened in 2015. For 2023, and the strategies that are forming all over the country, I would say that the Southwest region of Nigeria have a legitimate claim to the presidency in 2023, because the Southwest of Nigeria is an integral part of the Federation. And every citizen of Nigeria has, so long as they are qualified,
Now, Nikagule, can you hear us? All right, seems we may have lost him there. Mark Adebayo, can you hear me clearly?
I'm hearing you.
Okay, all right. While we try to reconnect with Nikagule, Mark Adebayo, I want you to go on with that same question. The Southwest and its positioning towards 2023. All right, seems we may have lost both our guests, you know, and of course, as we try to...
No, I'm back,
okay.
I'm back.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Adebayo.
No, I didn't hear your question, actually.
Oh, I was asking that you go on with the same question. You know, the Southwest and its positioning towards 2023, it seems there might be a clash of political heads as, you know, we draw closer to the elections. All right. Still, of course, Mr. Agule, can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you. Sorry.
All right. Welcome back.
Went off.
All right. Quickly go ahead.
Hello?
Yeah. Mr. Agule, go ahead. Mr. Adebayo, kindly hold on. Nick Agule, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I
go ahead,
was about to say that Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the Vice President of Nigeria, as the Americans will say, is a heartbeat away from the presidency. So he is not only just qualified, given that he has functioned in that office for 6 years, running into 7, but he's a citizen of Nigeria. Now, whatever is happening between him and his political godfather, Mr. Ahmed Tinubu, is what politicians will always do. There's always jostling for power. And we're going to continue to see these games in the run-up to the 2023 elections. At the end of the day, what should happen is that the internal democracy of the APC as a party, the internal democracy of APC as a party, will allow candidates that is supported by a majority of members of that party, of the APC, to stand. So for us as citizens who have our voters' cards and are waiting to vote, we want the parties, especially the 2 major parties, to present to us credible and viable candidates that will emerge from an internal party democracy that assures that people's wishes, that is members of the party, the APC, that their wishes are respected by the party, and the candidate that is presented is the one that is agreeable to a majority of the party members.
All right, Mark
That's
Adebayo.
my view.
Mark Adebayo, let me bring you in here, to share your thoughts on the possibility of is there a difference between the Southwest APC and the presidency APC, if you understand what I mean?
I do.
Right. So go ahead. Let's get your thoughts on that one. Is there those possibilities of two different lines?
Well, let me first and foremost let me just say that. Let me intervene by saying that it is not this issue between Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. It's not a Southwest strategy. It is an individual thing. It is their own individual, ambition to become the president of Nigeria. It has nothing to do with the collectivity of the Southwest. So it is individuals who are jostling for power. And it is, as a matter of fact, it is a counter strategy against the Southwest. If the Southwest is really serious and desirous of producing the next president, we shouldn't be having this type of clashes coming on. So it is a counter strategy for the Southwest as a whole. So what is happening is individuals jostling for power to position themselves to become president in 2023. But you see, my major concern is that the mere fact that we are having this conversation is an indictment on the organizational capacity or lack of it of the Nigerian youth. Why are we having this conversation between these two juggernauts? Why are we not talking about a new face, a younger person who is organizing for presidency? Now, 70 million Nigerian youth, where are they in this? Where are they in this conversation? Where are the not too young to run advocates and activists? Well, we shouldn't be, because it is an indictment of the younger generation that we are discussing these two people. We should be discussing a new face. We should be discussing somebody who's going to give us a new vision, a younger person on the block who is changing the narratives from the current trajectory of tragedy to a better Nigeria. We shouldn't be having this conversation. Now, I believe very sincerely that the two people have legitimate constitutional rights to aspire to become the president of Nigeria. But I want to believe that Bola Ahmed Tinubu has given his due. I sincerely believe that he has given his due. I don't want a situation whereby it will have been better for him to remain as a kingmaker. That is without contending with his rights to aspire to become presidency, to become the president. Professor Yemi Osinbajo, I believe he has also given his paid his due. But we need a different narrative. This is when the Nigerian youth must organize. And we should not be having this conversation. And then we should not, where I disagree with Mr. Agule, is that for him calling on the two so-called major parties to give us, no. I think we have seen what they can do. We have seen what they cannot do. We have seen their lack of capacity. We have seen their lack of patriotism. We have seen their lack of vision for a Nigeria that is progressive, that is developed and advancing. We have seen that. We need a new organization. We need a new party. We need new people, new faces to join the fray. We cannot say that we want to move forward while we keep looking backwards. We cannot move forward like that. It's a recipe for crashing. I'm seizing this opportunity to call on the younger Nigerian generation that this is the time for you to change the narrative. It is not enough to get a law passed and then you go back and sit back. Are we saying that there are no young people in their 40s, in their 50s, who can come together, organize and produce a candidate? Look, we are taking up the challenges. That is why we said we are telling INEC we need to register new organizations, new political parties that can give a fight to these juggernauts in 2023. We need to change the narratives. And you cannot share the narrative if we do not remodel our leadership recruitment processes in this country. We need younger people with younger vision, with younger power, with younger energy to run their affairs. We should not be having conversation. Frantz Fanon said that we should not become victims of a circle of certainty. We must resist the temptation to remain victims of a circle of certainty, that we cannot go beyond that. No.
All right, Mr. Adebayo. Nick Agule, I'm bringing you back in. I'm sure that you would also like to talk about the possibilities of a new face, a new force, if there's enough time for that to even be achieved. Seeing the way that Nigerian politics truly is played and, looking at it at the grassroots level, the amount of information that needs to be spread, the amount of publicity that needs to be done in the next 1 year, it might be almost impossible. But I want you to share once again on the Vice President and Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and also keep in mind, I think it's important that I say this, that there has not been an actual declaration of either of these two persons to run, or that they both are fighting each other for who would eventually take that seat. These are really just media narratives that are springing up here and there that we're analyzing. So, Mr. Agule, for the Vice President, what would you tell of him if he decides that he will go ahead and, seek the ticket against Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
Thank you very much. Before I answer your question, I just want to add to what my co-panelist, Mr. Adebayo, has said. I am all for a third force. I am all for a fresh face on the scene. But these things can't happen. They can't just happen like that. There has to be a force, a movement that takes that to happen. So 2023 is not too far off. Do we have that movement? I think at this point, we should first and foremost be mobilizing people to first and foremost get their voters' cards. Because it is when they register and have voters' cards that we'll be able to mobilize them to even stand behind the third force in 2023. Now, to answer your question, in my own personal opinion, I believe that the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, is ably qualified to vie for the position of the President of Nigeria. Why? Because there has been moments when the President had to travel overseas for medical attention. And Professor Osinbajo had the opportunity to act as president. And we saw within the time that he acted as president, green shoots of things happening, good things happening at the federal level in our governance. And so I believe that he has the capacity to do it. He may probably not be fully exercising his capacity and competence at this time because he's only a vice president. And he can only act based on what the president is delegating to him. But those moments that he had to act as president, I think he acted with courage, especially he sacked, I think there was a national security advisor, or was it?
DSS, the head of the DSS at that time.
The director of DSS that organized, orchestrated the attack on the legislative arm of government. He had the courage to sack him, something that is very rare in this government. So I would definitely support that he should vie for the position of president. I also agree with my co-panelist, Mr. Adebayo, to say that for Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I mean, he has capacity. As Lagos State Governor, we saw that he did good things. But the position of the president of Nigeria is a very busy position. You see, the president of Nigeria is the busiest president in the whole world. You know why? The president of Nigeria is even running secondary schools. Secondary schools. He's running railways. He's running water, running electricity, running all these things. The president of America doesn't run those things. The UK Prime Minister doesn't run those things. They only look at the big things, foreign policy, defense, all of that. So the president of Nigeria needs to be someone who is agile, someone who has energy, someone who can put in 24 hours work in a day. And Mr. Tinubu, it looks to be someone in failing health. And honestly, I mean, like Mr. Adebayo said, for his own good health and for his own longevity, he should probably just step aside into an advisory role.
All right, Mr.
Because if even that he hasn't taken the position, he's in and out of medical facilities. How about if he now takes the whole stress of the presidency and puts on his head? He may probably not live that long anymore.
All right, Mr. Agule. Finally, in 1 minute, Mark Adebayo, quickly share your thoughts on, some of the things that you're talking about earlier, the, third force, a new face. Do you honestly believe that is really achievable in the next 1 year?
Where there's a will, there's a way. Now, Mr. Agule, the president of Nigeria also runs cattle, because he runs cattle, he looks for cattle roads. So just to add to the job description of the Nigeria president. Yes, it is possible, it is doable, where there's a will, there's a way. For instance, maybe you have heard about OP, our party. That is an organization being put together by young people, professionals, and activists all over the country who have submitted application to INEC for registration as a political party. And I think Nigeria should key into that. It is doable. If the registration comes out in good time, they can make a difference. It takes just 6 months of serious organizing for that to happen. The third force can happen, and OP is one of the third forces. And I'm going to reach out to Mr. Agule on this later. So I think it is possible. I don't think we should start from the premise of pessimism. The young people of this country must come together, join forces with well-meaning older generations to be able to bring the necessary change to this country. What we need is a peaceful socio-political revolution that is going to take Nigeria to the status of an advanced society, like UAE has done. It doesn't take too much. It's not rocket science to be able to make a country develop. Just remove corruption, remove nepotism, remove retrogressive, thinking, and then you'll be able to move forward as a country. A third force is possible. There are other options available over there that in the country that people are coming together and organizing. All we need to do is that we must change the momentum. Let us share the momentum from the backward generation to the forward-moving generation, to the forward-looking generation, so that Nigeria can move forward.
All right.
We must not limit our conversation to PDP and APC. They have expired. We must not limit our conversation to the older generations. We must be able to bring people on board who mean well for this country and who can move the country forward.
Mark Adebayo, thank you once again for joining us on The Breakfast and in our conversations this morning. We wish you a very beautiful week ahead. Looking forward to speaking with you again.
Thank you so much.
And of course, Mr. Nick Agule, always interested in speaking with you also. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great week ahead.
Thank you, guys. You guys are doing an awesome job. Keep at it.
Thank you very much. And that is where we will be wrapping up the conversations this morning on The Breakfast. If you missed out on any of it, remember where to catch up. It's simply at PlusTvAfrica on Facebook and Instagram. See with our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Osaogi Ogbon. See you tomorrow.
For me, I wanted to change that culture. I didn't believe that until you see a white man or you see a foreigner in the kitchen before you can believe that, good food is going to come out of that kitchen.
You can leverage on each other's spaces and, sell. We believe in Nigeria, right? We believe that Nigeria can get better. We, the youth, are the ones that can make it better.
and my products are proudly made in Nigeria.
Made in Niger, showing every Tuesday at 10:30 p.m. and repeats on Saturday at 8:30 a.m.
Increase the reach of your events or business services. To advertise on Plus TV Africa, please call 0906 000 5719 or 0909 040 8408 or send an email to marketing@PlusTvAfrica.com. Plus TV Africa. Big stories live here.
What we do not understand, we will stigmatize.
What you can see is the remaining of the tanker that exploded.
The suspect equally confessed.
A 500 naira they collect am. If you no talk, dem go beat you. Na 2,500 I dey pay.
Thanks for joining us on Plus News Brief. I am Osaogie Ogbawa. Viewer discretion is advised, as you may find the video about to play disturbing. The Kwara State government has suspended the head of the Masbudin Islamia Arabic School in Gammo, Ifelodun local government area of the state, over the brutal manner some students were punished in the school. A viral video showed 5 students, including a female, being mercilessly flogged with long canes by 5 clerics for alleged conducts conceived to be contrary to the rules of the school. According to the report, the students were punished for allegedly celebrating a birthday party in a clubhouse and taking alcohol. A statement issued by the Commissioner for Education and Human Capital Development, Hajia Sadatu Modibokau, she said the government delegation has visited the Arabic school and also took the affected students to a public hospital for proper medical examination and treatment. And heavily armed bandits opened fire on a divisional police station in Adamawa State earlier today. The incident happened at Ngorore, a satellite town on the outskirts of Yola, the state capital. An eyewitness said the attacker arrived on motorcycles before dawn, opened fire on the police station, and kidnapped a mother and her daughter from a nearby house. The Commissioner of Police, Mohammed Bade, has ordered the deployment of a combined team of mobile and anti-terrorism units to the town. And the federal government has taken delivery of 10 of the 12 A-29 Super Tucano fighter jets expected from the United States, and the deployment has changed the tide in the fight against terror in Nigeria. The Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, made the disclosure at a forum on Sunday in Abuja. He noted that the deployment of the platforms contributed immensely to the successes being recorded in the fight against Boko Haram terrorists, who were surrendering in droves in the northeast. In addition to the measures taken against bandits in northwest and other troubled states, the minister said the platforms had also helped in neutralizing criminals. The Director of Public Relations and Information at the Nigerian Air Force Headquarters, Air Commodore Edward Gapquet, who made the announcement, said the jets arrived in Kano. Meanwhile, the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, says the federal government is winning the war against terrorism in the northeast zone of the country. He recalled how some communities under full control of the insurgents before 2015 had been reclaimed by the federal government through what he described as relentless efforts of the military and other security forces. The minister attributed the successes recorded to the various morale-boosting efforts of the federal government in addition to acquisition of new military hardware. And the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo says anything that is not towards the advancements of Nigeria's unity is senseless. The VP spoke at a session with Nigeria's High Commission officials in London at the Abuja House, the High Commissioner's residence. Osinbajo urged citizens at home and in the diaspora to promote the message of one country. He noted that anybody who critically looks at how Nigeria operates will recognize the people are better off in the current system. And still in the news, opposition to direct primary election continued as a former Senate President, Bukola Saraki, has sent an appeal to members of the National Assembly to save the country the crisis and trouble that would result from the proposal to make direct primaries compulsory for parties in sourcing candidates for elections. In a statement by his head of media office, Yusuf Olanionu, Saraki noted that the decision to include a provision in the proposed Electoral Act, which would make it compulsory for parties to adopt direct primaries, would only create a fresh problem while trying to solve another. He added that many of the political parties lacked the necessary infrastructure to successfully conduct direct primaries at all levels, while the attempt would lead to hundreds of litigations that might jeopardize the general elections. And also, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has indicated that new political parties might be registered ahead of the 2023 general elections. The chairman of INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, said this in Abuja at the weekend during the annual summit of political parties and stakeholders with the theme, Political Parties and Democratic Stability in Nigeria, set an agenda for the 2023 general elections. Also, ahead of the 2023 general elections, the Commission expressed concern over the way political parties conduct themselves, saying there should be improvement. Among those gaps included the lack of internal party democracy, inclusivity, marginalization of women and persons living with disabilities, and the youth. While expressing optimism that it would register more parties before the next general election, the Commission stated that it was anticipating the challenges in the country would not be a threat to the 2023 elections. And Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has flagged off the Southwest agenda for Asiwaju Tinubu's presidential ambition, Swagger 2023. Lagos State Government House correspondent Love Ikuku Edukun reports that the launch attracted a huge crowd.
Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu joined the full political machinery in the state to host a carnival-like event. Swagger, a group led by Senator Dayo Adeyeye, is a political movement building support base for the former Lagos State Governor in anticipation of his interest to contest for the president in the 2023 general elections.
We have met all the Obas in Lagos. In the last 3 or 4 days, we succeeded in meeting at least 80 Obas in Lagos State, from Badagry Division to Ikeja Division, Ikorodu Division, Epe Division, Lagos Island Division. And we have also met political leaders as well.
Sanwo-Olu said Swagger was formed based on the belief in Tinubu's vision and political philosophy that prioritize development of human capital and economy. The governor promised to mobilize more political support for the group, adding that he would join hands with their coordinators to take the agenda beyond the Southwest region.
When we told you
kept the best for the last. You can see Lagos. Lagos!
Ashwaju has raised so many leaders in this country. It is to his credit that the kind of development that has made Lagos such a great state in Nigeria have been due to the foundation it laid for this great state.
Worthy of note is that the cynosure Bola Tinubu is yet to confirm if he's contesting the 2023 elections, but that's not the worries of these ardent supporters rooting for him to do so. From Lagos, Love Ikuku Oyedoku, reporting for Plus TV Africa.
Away from politics, today is World Mental Health Day, and Nigeria is joining the global community to create awareness on mental health. Plus TV Africa's Ngozika Ohajesi spoke to a psychiatrist who wants the federal government to pass a mental health bill. And this is her report.
October the 10th every year is celebrated as World Mental Health Day. The day is set aside to educate, create more awareness and advocate against social stigma associated with mental health issues. According to the World Health Organization, the COVID-19 pandemic has had major impact on people's mental health and other frontline workers, those with pre-existing mental health conditions, students and people living alone have been particularly affected. This year's awareness theme is mental health in an unequal world. Dr. Peter Ogunubi, a public mental health physician, explains this inequality.
Someone that suffers from depression will likely receive things like, come on, come off it, be a man. Real men, don't cry, what's wrong with you? Stand up. This person is actually ill. Mental illness, illness of the brain, manifesting as depression. But someone that has the same illness of the heart, either hypertension, or illness of the lungs in terms of asthma, or illness of the pancreas in terms of diabetes, will receive empathy.
Could mental illness be the silent pandemic?
Many people have lost their parents. We just all we hear is so have died. But remember, he has a teenager, he has a child, he has children.
As Nigeria joins the rest of the world in marking the Mental Health Day, Dr. Ogunubi explains what Nigeria should focus on.
As much as possible, let the government, especially our legislators, let them pass the mental health bill.
Dr. Ogunubi says Nigeria needs to improve on its awareness level.
Sad to say that we have not yet gotten there. But we are not where we were a few years ago.
These Nigerians explain how they manage their mental health.
Make yourself happy, regardless of, whatever it is that is surrounding you is important.
Sometimes I just do what I'm good at, probably play football and mix up with people, then I get over it.
I listen to music, sometimes pray, meditate, speak to friends, just find things outside the issue that is stressing me to just feel comfortable with.
The World Health Organization estimates that 30% of Nigerians' 200 million strong population suffers from mental illness. Fewer than 10% have access to mental health care. And as we mark this day, it's important to know that mental illness is an issue of the brain that can be managed. Don't keep silent about it. For Plus TV Africa, Ngozika Ohajesi.
And just to quickly also correct, World Mental Health Day is on the 10th of October, which was yesterday, across the world. Still in the news, Nigerian parents have been warned to caution their children against any social vices, as over 40% of Nigerians have mental health crises. The provost of Psychiatric Hospital, Aro Abeokuta, Ogun State, Dr. Agbola Paul, says the crisis deepened prior to the COVID-19 pandemic between developed and developing countries. He calls on the federal government to give assent on the mental health bill passed by the lawmaker to strengthen the care for mentally challenged individuals in the country.
Also want our parents to also look out, for the children and their youth in the society, what they they take and what they do outside. You know, a lot of things now happening. There are a lot of social vices now that could, if not unchecked, if it's not properly utilized, you know, it could lead to pain abuse. So I will advise parents, we have a lot of work to do, not just leaving it to the government alone. Mental health issues or symptoms, you can say over 50-60% of individuals in this country have one form of mental health symptoms or the other. But when we talk about mental health as a disorder, well, the figure could come down a bit lower than that. For instance, if you're talking about depression, you're looking at over 20 to 25% of our population, or even more than that. More so with the economic crisis we have.
And also stories in other parts of Africa. Burkina Faso's former president, Blaise Compaoré, the main accused in a long-awaited trial on the 1987 assassination of his predecessor, Thomas Sankara, will boycott the upcoming proceedings. This is according to his lawyers. In the trial opening on Monday, Compaoré and 13 others face an array of charges in the death of Sankara, a charismatic revolutionary leader followers described as the African Che Guevara. Compaoré's lawyers said the military tribunal was an exceptional court that laid aside common law. They believe Compaoré has immunity as a former head of state. Pierre-Olivier Sour, one of his lawyers, calls the trials a sham trial. And Liberia's opposition leader of the Alternative National Congress, ANC, Alexander B. Cummins, has held a press conference at his party's headquarters after the collaborating political parties accused him of altering the framework document under his chairmanship. 4 major opposition political parties, including the former ruling Unity Party, All Liberian Party, ALP, Alternative National Congress, ANC, and Liberty Party, LP, entered into a collaboration framework that leads to the selection process of a single presidential candidate in order to challenge the incumbent president of Liberia, George Weah, ahead of the 2023 presidential and general elections.
All I have consistently asked is that we go through this process. And if I do not win, I will respect and support the outcome. Yet, the fear that I will win through that process is what is fueling this malicious reputation damage. I promise you, they will fail. Today, I want to confirm and assure you that I, Alexander Benedict Cummins, did not alter the content, provisions, intent, or spirit of the framework document as amended by the lawyers and approved by the parties. That is the singular fact. And Yomle Kanga Lawrence knows that. Joseph Boykai knows that. Benani Ure knows that. And I know the Liberian people also know that.
And now outside Africa, Moscow says Russia will allow the U.S. Under Secretary of State Victoria Nuland to visit for talks despite having previously blacklisted her after Washington agreed to lift a similar restriction placed on a Russian citizen. The U.S. official, who is expected in Moscow from October 11th to 13th, visits at a time when political ties between the countries are badly strained. She will meet senior officials to discuss bilateral, regional, and global issues, the State Department has said. And Italian police say they have arrested 12 people, including the leaders of the extreme right-wing party, Forza Nuova, after clashes in Rome a day earlier over a government drive to make the COVID-19 Green Pass mandatory for all workers. Thousands of people took to the streets of the Italian capital on Saturday to oppose the move. Some tried to break past police in riot gear, guarding access to Prime Minister Mario Draghi's office, while a separate group broke into the headquarters of Italy's main CGIL trade union and turned its offices upside down. Overnight, dozens of protesters also tried to break into the accident and emergency unit at Rome's Polisilino Umberto Hospital, where one of them was being kept for treatment, forcing health workers to barricade themselves inside. And now to business news. The National Union of Petroleum and Gas Workers, NUPENG, has announced the suspension of the planned strike by its affiliate members, Petroleum Tanker Drivers PTD. The strike, which would have kicked off on Monday, was shelved because of the intervention by the federal government. The Southwest Zonal Chairman of NUPENG says the suspension of the strike will allow the union's representatives and those of the government to address the knotty issues at stake. Tanker drivers had wanted to go on strike to protest against bad road networks across Nigeria. And the Director General of the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, Segun Ajayi Kadir, says industrialization is a catalyst for economic growth and development. Ajayi Kadir said this at the high-level conversation on industrialization and sustainable development to commemorate the association's 50th anniversary. Justin Akadonye has more.
Sustainable Development Goal number 9 is about industry, innovation and infrastructure, and is one of the 17 goals adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 2015. The Manufacturers Association of Nigeria (MEN), which believes industrialization is linked to several SDGs, however laments Nigeria's share at 0.41% globally. The organizers speak on the essence of the conversation.
This interactive session is premised on the urgent need for us as industrialists to examine and prioritize the nexus between industrialization and sustainable development.
We have seen this nexus as critical in the sense that one has to reinforce the other. We have seen that our incapacity to even achieve some of those SDGs has to do with our level of industrialization.
The conversation then broke into a panel session where Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Amina Mohammed, encouraged the association to participate in the global impact. Other panelists Georgia on a nexus between industrialization and SDGs, as well as other perspectives.
Nigeria also stands to benefit greatly from the African Continental Free Trade Area, which will improve the quality of goods and services and increase Nigeria's competitiveness in national and international markets. Man's support will be crucial in ensuring Nigeria takes profit from the fourth industrial revolution.
This interrelationship between targets, the goals, and the indicators. And obviously, we know the relationship between food security and national security.
It is no surprise, therefore, that eco-friendly manufacturing is gaining ground and momentum around the world today. It is a sure way to protect the planet from exploitation and help conserve natural resources.
So if we see the UN's commitment to improving life, ending poverty, and so on as critical to achieving the SDGs, then industrialization must be taken along with it.
The event is a sequel to a Man's Anniversary Roundtable, which highlighted the need for collaboration among the manufacturing community, government parastatals, as well as international trade collaboration across the African countries.
Away from business now to entertainment news, where No Time to Die, the latest installment in the James Bond franchise, has debuted to £56 million, or dollars, I beg your pardon, at the domestic box office, a result that fell somewhat short of expectations and signals that even one of the most storied brands in film history is still being forced to contend with a movie-going landscape that has been dramatically altered by the pandemic.
Heading into its U.S. opening weekend, James Bond flick No Time to Die had a lot going for it. The hype was huge. The 25th installment of the spy thriller franchise, it marks actor Daniel Craig's final billing as the rakish secret agent. And both film critics and audiences seemed to like the flick, which scored high on ratings site Rotten Tomatoes. And atop all that was pent-up demand for a long-delayed movie that was first scheduled to hit theaters in April 2020, just as closures and health measures upended the theater world. No Time to Die was projected to pull in $60 to $70 million over its U.S. debut weekend, and it fell short. The film took in $56 million over the first 3 days. That would be cause for celebration for a lot of movies, but this is a Bond flick with a production budget of $250 million and another $100 million spent on marketing. It's a warning signal for the movie business as the health crisis persists and moviegoers are still reluctant to pack theaters in person. Still, No Time to Die has already enjoyed an impressive global box office of $313 million and is still yet to open in China.
To sports news, world champions France have won the Nations League final with goals from Karim Benzema and Kylian Mbappe earning them a 2-1 win over Spain at the San Siro Stadium on Sunday. Didier Deschamps' side had struggled to get a foothold in the game during the first half, dominated by Spain, but after going a goal down through Mikel Oyarzábal's strike, they came alive, with Paul Pogba excellent in midfield, Mbappe's speed and movement stretching Spain, and Benzema a constant threat. The French were good value for their victory. Luis Enrique's young Spanish side, who had beaten European champions Italy in the semi-finals, had played their trademark possession football with patience and precision, but in the end could not compensate for the absence of a genuine striker. And that's the news brief. For more stories, please follow us at PlusTvAfrica on Facebook and Instagram. And do subscribe to our YouTube channel at PlusTvAfrica and PlusTvAfrica Lifestyle. I am Osao Gie Ogbonwa. Thanks for watching.